Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be talking about my project, silicone versus parchment paper. My question was, does adding silicone or parchment paper to a dark metal cookie sheet affect the number of people that like the cookies? I need to research 3 topics: silicone, parchment paper, and dark metal cookie sheets. For silicone, I found it's made of an element called silicon. It's an element on the periodic table. It has a boiling point of 5,909 degrees Fahrenheit, and it looks like a bluish gray crystal. Silicone is supposed to make the cookies the least compared to parchment paper and dark metal. Silicone might add a slight taste of plastic, will collect greases and fats over time, and add that taste into the cookies, and might add a taste of what you baked on it last. So taking that into consideration, I made sure that I bought a new one and used it during my tests. For parchment paper, I found that it's made of an element called cellulose. Cellulose is what you would find in vegetation or vegetable matter. Parchment paper also has an oven-safe grease coating on it, so unlike wax paper, will not burn in the oven. Metal cookie sheets can range from light to dark. They're made of either aluminum or steel or both together. They can have uneven cooking, and the darker the cookie sheet is, the more heat is absorbed to the bottom. So based off of my research, my hypothesis states that if I bake cookies for 12 minutes in a 350-degree oven on a dark metal cookie sheet with a silicone mat, then I'll produce the most light cookie, because silicone is supposed to make the cookie the least compared to parchment paper and dark metal. My procedure. First, I'd preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, put the rack to the center, and place the oven thermometer in the oven. Then, I either placed silicone or parchment paper, or left the dark metal cookie sheet alone, and put 8 cookie dough squares onto it. When the oven said it was fully heated, I checked with the oven thermometer. If it said that it was fully heated, I put the cookie sheet into the oven, making sure to put only one in at a time, and I set a timer for 12 minutes, which was recommended on the packaging. When that timer went off, I carefully took the cookie sheet out and put it on a timer, and set a 2-minute timer for a setting time so that before you move to the cooling racks, they could set. When that timer went off, I carefully moved the cookie sheet over to another counter and took the cookies off and put them onto a cooling rack. I washed each pan, each silicone mat, and threw away the parchment paper after each test that I used them in. I repeat steps 4 through 7 2 more times on silicone, parchment paper, and dark metal alone. When all the cookies were done baking, I put them into a Ziploc bag labeled A, B, or C based off of what they were baked on, and I brought human consent forms to school. When people signed the human consent forms, I brought the cookies to school and I tested them. I made sure that they didn't know what the cookies were baked on before they had answered the question. When all my data was gathered, I made my graph. So as I have, it's parchment paper that won with 8 and silicone which lost with 5. So based off of my experiment, the answer to my question is that parchment paper produced the most light cookie because it wasn't that hard and it had a nice texture to it. Also based off of my experiment, my hypothesis was incorrect because, as I said, silicone mat on a dark metal cookie sheet will produce the most light cookie because it's supposed to bake the least. Well, it actually did the opposite. It baked the most. How I would improve my experiment is I would have liked to have more information on parchment paper and dark metal, and I would have liked more taste testers. How I would change my experiment is I would have liked to have light metal in all 3 columns instead of just having dark metal. Thank you.